My beloved child, there are moments in life that arrive without warning, moments that quietly change the way you see yourself forever. Today is one of those moments. What you are about to hear is not ordinary, and it is not something that appeared before you by accident. For a long time, you believed that certain people truly understood your heart. You believed your silence meant no one noticed your sacrifices. But everything changed on the day one member of your family finally found the courage to speak the truth that had been hidden for far too long. Before that conversation, everyone believed they knew your story. They repeated assumptions, accepted appearances, and never stopped to ask what was really happening inside your heart. Yet one person had been watching carefully. They had seen the kindness you offered without expecting anything in return. They had seen the nights when you carried heavy emotions without allowing anyone to notice. They had seen how often you chose peace instead of arguments, patience instead of anger, and hope instead of bitterness. That family member could no longer remain silent. When they finally spoke, the room became unusually quiet. Every word carried a weight that no one expected. They did not raise their voice. They did not accuse anyone. Instead, they simply began revealing moments that everyone else had ignored. They reminded everyone how many times you stood beside your family when no one thanked you. They remembered promises you kept while others forgot. They described the strength you showed during difficult seasons, even when your own heart needed comfort. As those memories unfolded, expressions around the room slowly changed. People who once believed they understood everything suddenly realized they had only seen a small part of your journey. One sentence after another uncovered a truth that had remained hidden beneath years of misunderstanding. The family member explained that your quietness had never been weakness. It had been wisdom. Your patience had never been fear. It had been love. Your distance had never meant you stopped caring. It simply meant you were protecting your peace while hoping others would eventually understand. Hearing those words felt different because they came from someone who had witnessed everything from the beginning. Nothing was exaggerated. Nothing was invented. It was simply the truth, spoken with honesty and compassion. As they continued, emotions became impossible to hide. Faces that once appeared confident slowly softened. Eyes filled with unexpected emotion. Some people looked down because they remembered moments they wished they could change. Others replayed conversations they now understood differently. The silence that followed each sentence became louder than any argument ever could. It was not a silence filled with fear. It was a silence filled with realization. The family member then revealed something even more powerful. They admitted there had been countless opportunities to defend you earlier, but they hesitated because they believed the truth would eventually reveal itself. Looking back, they wished they had spoken sooner. They wished they had reminded everyone that kindness often goes unnoticed because it never demands attention. They wished they had told the family that the strongest people are usually the ones carrying the heaviest burdens without asking anyone for help. Those words touched every heart listening. Suddenly, old misunderstandings no longer seemed important. Small disagreements lost their power. Long-held assumptions began disappearing one by one. Instead of remembering your mistakes, people started remembering your generosity. Instead of focusing on isolated moments, they finally saw the complete picture of your character. The family member smiled gently before sharing another memory. They remembered a day when you quietly helped someone without expecting recognition. No photographs were taken. No praise was given. No applause followed. Yet that simple act revealed more about your heart than years of explanations ever could. It proved that your character was never built around attention. It was built around sincerity. As each memory surfaced, emotions became stronger. Some people quietly wiped away tears because they realized they had underestimated the person standing before them. Others recognized that genuine love is often expressed through ordinary actions rather than dramatic words. The room no longer felt ordinary. It felt like a place where hidden truths were finally finding their voice. Then came the revelation no one expected. The family member explained that during your hardest moments, when it seemed like no one cared, someone had always been praying for you, believing in you, and quietly defending your name whenever negative conversations began. They had chosen silence publicly, but privately they never stopped believing that your true character would one day become impossible to ignore. Hearing this surprised everyone because the support had remained invisible for so long. In that instant, the atmosphere changed completely. People realized that goodness does not disappear simply because it goes unnoticed. Truth may move quietly, but it never loses its strength. Every act of patience, every moment of compassion, and every decision to remain kind had quietly built a foundation that could no longer remain hidden. The family member looked around once more and said something unforgettable. They said that one honest conversation has the power to heal years of misunderstanding. One sincere voice can restore what countless assumptions tried to damage. And one truthful heart can remind an entire family that people should never be judged only by what they see on the surface. As those words settled into every heart, many people realized they wanted to know you again, not through old assumptions, but through the truth they had finally heard. Respect replaced doubt. Gratitude replaced misunderstanding. Compassion replaced judgment. The tears that appeared were not tears of regret alone. They were tears born from finally recognizing the value of someone who had quietly loved without demanding recognition. This was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where your quiet strength could no longer remain hidden. The truth had finally found its voice, and once spoken, it could never be taken back. A gentle peace settled over the room, yet everyone could feel that the story was far from over. There was still something left unsaid, something that had remained hidden for years because the right moment had never arrived. The family member took a slow breath and continued speaking with complete sincerity. They explained that there had been many occasions when people misunderstood your silence. Some believed you had given up, while others assumed you simply did not care anymore. But the truth was entirely different. You had been protecting everyone else's peace while quietly carrying your own burdens. You smiled so others would not worry. You stayed calm so others would not feel uncomfortable. You chose forgiveness because you believed that bitterness only steals precious time. As those words echoed through the room, more eyes filled with emotion. Every memory began connecting like pieces of a puzzle that had finally found their proper place. Someone whispered that they had never realized how much you had sacrificed without asking for recognition. Another family member admitted they remembered moments when you were blamed for things you never caused, yet you never argued because you believed time would eventually reveal the truth. Hearing those confessions changed everything. The atmosphere no longer felt heavy with misunderstanding. Instead, it became filled with gratitude and respect. Then the family member revealed another unforgettable memory. They spoke about a day when everyone believed you had walked away because you no longer cared, but in reality you had stepped back only to give someone else the chance to shine. You celebrated other people's victories even when your own dreams had to wait. You encouraged others while quietly rebuilding your own confidence. No one had noticed because you never spoke about your own struggles. You simply kept moving forward with quiet faith. That realization touched every heart in the room. People began remembering countless small moments they had forgotten, moments where your kindness had quietly changed someone's day without anyone giving you credit. One by one, those memories returned with incredible clarity. They remembered your comforting words during difficult seasons. They remembered your willingness to help without expecting anything in return. They remembered how you stayed hopeful even when life seemed uncertain. Every forgotten act of kindness suddenly became impossible to ignore. The family member smiled through tears and said that true character is never measured by how loudly someone speaks but by how consistently they choose goodness when no one is watching. Those words settled deeply into every heart. Nobody interrupted because everyone knew they were witnessing something rare. The truth was unfolding naturally, and with every passing moment the picture became clearer. Then came another revelation that no one expected. The family member admitted they had secretly admired your strength for years. They had watched you face disappointment without losing your compassion. They had watched you experience setbacks without becoming bitter. They had watched you continue believing in better days even when circumstances gave you every reason to stop hoping. That quiet resilience inspired them more than you would ever know. Until that day, they had never found the courage to say it aloud. Now they wanted everyone to understand exactly who you had always been. At that moment, every misunderstanding seemed smaller than ever before. Old assumptions faded into the background while the truth stood clearly before everyone. There was no need for dramatic speeches or endless explanations anymore because your life had already spoken louder than words. The family member gently reminded everyone that genuine goodness often grows in silence. It does not demand applause. It simply continues doing what is right, trusting that one day honesty will be recognized. As those final words filled the room, an overwhelming feeling of peace replaced every lingering doubt. Hearts that had once been uncertain were now filled with appreciation. Faces that once looked confused now carried quiet understanding. It became clear that this conversation would be remembered for many years, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it finally revealed the beautiful truth that had been waiting patiently to be seen all along. No one spoke for several long moments. The silence itself seemed to honor the truth that had finally been revealed. Then, the oldest person in the room slowly looked around and quietly admitted that they had made a mistake. They confessed that they had listened to opinions instead of paying attention to your actions. That single admission encouraged others to become honest as well. One after another, family members began sharing memories that they had kept to themselves for years. Each story pointed toward the same conclusion. You had always chosen love over pride, patience over frustration, and understanding over judgment. The more they remembered, the clearer everything became. Your kindness had never disappeared. It had simply gone unnoticed. The family member who first spoke continued with calm confidence. They explained that there was one memory they had never told anyone. They remembered seeing you quietly encourage someone who was ready to give up. You never expected recognition for those words. You simply wanted that person to believe in themselves again. Months later, that person found the courage to move forward because of what you had said. Until today, no one knew that your quiet encouragement had changed an entire direction in someone's life. The room grew emotional once again. Several people lowered their heads as they realized how many beautiful moments had remained hidden because you never talked about them. You believed that genuine goodness did not need an audience. That belief had shaped every decision you made. The family member smiled gently and said that your greatest strength was not what people saw. It was what you continued doing when no one was watching. Those words settled deeply into every heart. Suddenly, people began remembering conversations they had forgotten years ago. They remembered how you defended others when it would have been easier to remain silent. They remembered how you celebrated other people's success without jealousy. They remembered how you always searched for peace instead of proving yourself right. Every memory became another piece of evidence revealing the person you had always been. Then someone quietly asked why you never explained yourself. The answer surprised everyone. The family member replied that you once believed the truth would always arrive at the right time. You never wanted to win people over through endless explanations. You trusted that consistent actions would eventually speak louder than temporary opinions. Looking back, everyone realized how rare that kind of confidence truly was. It did not come from pride. It came from a heart that refused to stop believing in goodness. As emotions continued to rise, another unexpected voice joined the conversation. This family member admitted they had secretly admired your courage for a very long time. They explained that while others focused on your quiet nature, they noticed your determination. They saw how you continued showing kindness even after experiencing disappointment. They watched you remain respectful even when life became difficult. Those moments inspired them more than they had ever admitted before. Hearing that confession created another wave of emotion throughout the room. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Every honest memory strengthened the next one. Every sincere word uncovered another layer of your character. There was no dramatic performance. There was only honesty. That honesty carried more power than anyone expected. By the end of the conversation, everyone understood that your story had never been defined by misunderstandings. It had always been defined by quiet strength, unwavering compassion, and a heart that continued choosing hope, even when no one seemed to notice. The family member looked at you one final time and softly said that some people spend their entire lives trying to prove who they are. You never had to. Your life had already done that for you. Now, at last, everyone could finally see it. The conversation should have ended there, yet something extraordinary happened that no one expected. Just as everyone believed every hidden truth had finally been spoken, another family member slowly stood up with tears. quietly resting in their eyes. They looked around the room for several seconds before speaking, as though they were searching for the perfect words. When they finally began, their voice carried both regret and gratitude. They admitted that there had always been one memory they could never forget. It was not because the moment was dramatic. It was because it revealed the kind of person you had always been when no one was paying attention. They remembered a difficult season when everyone in the family was overwhelmed with their own responsibilities. During that time, many small acts of kindness went unnoticed. Yet you continued showing up every single day with the same gentle heart. You listened without interrupting. You encouraged without expecting praise. You gave your time without keeping score. Looking back, they realized those ordinary moments had quietly become the strongest proof of your character. As they shared this memory, another person gently nodded in agreement. They confessed that they had witnessed the very same thing from a different perspective. Piece by piece, stories began connecting together like pages from a book that had finally been opened. None of these stories had ever been discussed before. They had remained hidden because everyone assumed someone else already understood them. Now, for the first time, every voice was pointing toward the same truth. You had never been pretending to be kind. Kindness was simply who you were. That realization filled the room with a quiet emotion that words could barely describe. No one felt the need to interrupt. No one tried to change the subject. Every heart seemed focused on the same thought. How had they failed to notice something so beautiful for so long? The family member continued by revealing another memory that had remained locked inside their heart for years. They remembered watching you quietly comfort someone after they had experienced disappointment. You never gave long speeches. You simply stayed beside them until they found the strength to smile again. At the time, it seemed like a small gesture. Today, everyone understood that it had changed far more than anyone realized. The person you comforted later admitted that your calm presence had helped them through one of the hardest chapters of their life. Hearing those words caused several people to wipe away tears. They realized that your greatest impact had never come through grand moments. It had come through quiet consistency. You had been planting hope in places where nobody else thought to look. The family member smiled softly before continuing. They explained that people often remember loud voices because they are impossible to ignore. But they never forget gentle hearts because those hearts quietly change lives forever. That sentence remained in everyone's mind. It echoed through the room long after it had been spoken. Someone else then admitted they once misunderstood your silence. They believed you had become distant. They believed you no longer cared. Today they understood something completely different. Your silence had never been empty. It had been filled with patience. While others rushed to explain themselves, you chose to let your actions tell the story. While others searched for recognition, you searched for peace. That difference became clearer with every passing minute. Another unexpected memory surfaced. One family member recalled a celebration where everyone was enjoying themselves. Amid the laughter and excitement, they noticed you quietly helping behind the scenes. You made sure everyone else felt included before thinking about yourself. At the time, almost no one noticed. Looking back now, that simple moment revealed more about your heart than any speech ever could. The room grew even quieter. It became impossible to deny that the truth had always been present. People simply had not looked closely enough to see it. Then came a revelation that surprised everyone once again. The family member admitted they had once written down something about you in a personal journal. They never expected to share those words aloud. Yet today felt like the right moment. They slowly opened the worn notebook they had carried with them for years. Every eye followed their hands as they carefully turned the pages. Finally, they found the passage they had been searching for. With a gentle smile, they began reading. They had written that some people leave an impression through achievements, while others leave an impression through the way they make people feel. According to that journal entry, you belonged to the second group. Your greatest gift was making others feel seen, respected, and valued, even during ordinary conversations. When they finished reading, complete silence returned. Nobody expected such deeply personal words to exist. The journal had been written long before today's conversation ever happened. That meant these thoughts were not influenced by recent events. They had existed quietly for years. The honesty of those words touched everyone present. One by one, family members began remembering how often you had encouraged them during uncertain seasons. Some remembered conversations they had almost forgotten. Others remembered simple moments that suddenly carried new meaning. A small act of kindness from years ago now felt priceless. A brief conversation now seemed unforgettable. Every forgotten memory returned with surprising clarity. It was as though the truth had patiently waited for this exact moment before revealing itself completely. The family member gently closed the journal and looked toward you once more. They said there are people who spend years trying to change how others see them. You never chased approval. You simply remained true to yourself. That quiet authenticity had become your greatest strength. It inspired trust without demanding attention. It created peace without asking for applause. It reminded everyone that real character grows slowly through countless unseen choices. Those words settled deeply into every heart. No one questioned them because everyone could now see the evidence through their own memories. The atmosphere in the room had completely transformed. Earlier, there had been uncertainty. Now there was appreciation. Earlier, there had been assumptions. Now there was understanding. Earlier, there had been distance. Now there was warmth. The family member then offered one final reflection before sitting down. They said that sometimes the greatest truth about a person is not discovered during extraordinary moments. It is discovered by remembering hundreds of ordinary moments that quietly revealed the same beautiful character again and again. Everyone nodded because they finally understood exactly what those words meant. Your story had never depended on one conversation. It had been written through years of consistent kindness, quiet faith, patient love, and unwavering hope. Today simply became the day when everyone finally opened their hearts wide enough to read it clearly. And as the evening continued, every person present carried home the same realization. The truth about you had never changed. Only their understanding had. From that day forward, they would no longer remember you through old assumptions. They would remember you through the countless moments of compassion that had always been there, waiting patiently to be recognized. As the evening slowly came to an end, no one seemed eager to leave. It was as if everyone understood that they had witnessed something they would remember for the rest of their lives. The room no longer carried the weight of misunderstanding. Instead, it was filled with quiet gratitude. Every conversation that followed reflected the same realization. The truth had not changed your heart. It had changed the way everyone finally saw it. One final family member gently smiled and said there was something they had wanted to tell you for a very long time. They explained that they had often wondered how you continued showing kindness after being overlooked so many times. They admitted they would not have had the same strength. Yet somehow, you never allowed disappointment to replace compassion. You never allowed silence to replace hope. You never allowed temporary misunderstandings to define your future. That quiet resilience became the greatest lesson anyone in the room could have received. Everyone listened carefully because these words felt different. They were no longer simply remembering the past. They were recognizing the future that your example had quietly created for the entire family. One by one, they realized that your life had encouraged them to become more patient, more understanding, and more grateful. Without trying to teach anyone, you had become a living reminder that genuine character is revealed through consistency rather than recognition. The family member continued by saying that there will always be moments when people misunderstand good intentions. There will always be days when quiet hearts are overlooked because louder voices receive more attention. But eventually, honesty finds its moment. Kindness finds its witness. And truth always finds the people who are willing to receive it. Looking around the room, everyone understood those words more deeply than ever before. They remembered countless occasions when your actions had spoken with remarkable clarity. They simply had not paused long enough to notice. Today, they finally had. One person softly laughed through tears as they admitted they used to believe that strength meant always having the perfect answer. Now they realized that true strength often looks like remaining gentle even when life gives every reason to become cold. Another family member nodded and said they hoped to carry that lesson with them every day. They wanted to become the kind of person who noticed quiet goodness before it was too late. That promise filled the room with hope. It was no longer a conversation about the past. It had become a promise for the future. Before everyone stood to leave, the family member who had first revealed the truth spoke one last time. They looked directly at you and smiled with complete sincerity. They said that your greatest victory was never proving anyone wrong. Your greatest victory was remaining true to yourself while time quietly revealed everything that needed to be seen. They reminded everyone that respect earned through honesty lasts far longer than attention gained through appearances. Those words settled peacefully into every heart. No one felt the need to add anything else because the message was already complete. The truth had spoken with quiet confidence, and every person present had heard it. As the lights grew dim and everyone prepared to go home, there was one final realization shared among them all. Families become stronger when they choose understanding over assumption. Relationships become deeper when people appreciate the quiet sacrifices that often go unseen. Hearts become lighter when gratitude replaces judgment. And lives become more meaningful when kindness is recognized before it is forgotten. From that day forward, your name was spoken with renewed respect. Your presence brought comfort instead of questions. Your quiet smile reminded everyone of the lesson they had learned together. They no longer saw someone who had been misunderstood. They saw someone whose unwavering compassion had quietly transformed every heart in the room. Long after that evening ended, the conversation continued living inside each person who had witnessed it. Whenever they remembered your story, they remembered one simple truth above all else. A sincere heart never loses its value simply because it goes unnoticed for a season. In the end, genuine kindness always leaves a lasting light, and when that light is finally recognized, it has the power to heal memories, restore relationships, and inspire hope for generations to come. That was the truth your family finally revealed, and it became the beginning of a new chapter marked by understanding, gratitude, peace, and unconditional love.